So let me first thank the Sterling of the Heifers folks for having us as their guests today. I'm Ed Woods. I'm the publisher of the Brattleboro Reformer. I'm being told that I should speak into the mic. Is that right? Thank you. So I'm here today with some colleagues of mine who I'll let them introduce themselves in a second, but let me go back a minute and tell you that a couple months ago, I got a phone call at home from one of the executives at the parent company of the Brattleboro Reformer, letting me know that there was a group of local folks who were interested in exploring whether or not the purchase of the Brattleboro Reformer and its parent company, New England Newspapers, would make sense to them, and would I spend some time with them. And that phone call came in early January, and I've done that, and we are announcing today that that is actually going to happen on May 1st, May 2nd. And so I'm excited. Yeah, you're going to be even more excited when you hear more about the sort of the plan and the roadmap for the future. So it's an interesting time for us in the newspaper business. It's a very, very challenging time, as we all know, we read about, we understand. But we have come across some individuals who absolutely share our passion as newspaper executives, and they live and work and do business in the communities that our newspapers serve. And so what a better fit for us, right? So I'm going to introduce Fred Rutberg to you, who is going to be announced as the president of New England Newspapers on May 2nd. Fred?
Thank you. Thank you, Ed. It's a real pleasure to be here in Brattleboro this afternoon. And I am just beaming with pride that myself and my colleagues have been able to acquire New England Newspapers as of a week from Monday. I believe most fervently that by strengthening these organizations, we're going to enhance the quality of life culturally, socially, and economically in all of the communities that New England Newspaper serves. So I started to think about how could this be done, and I was fortunate enough to make acquaintance with my now good friend Hans Morris, and I've known Bob Wilmers here for a long, long time. And so we've put together a team of 4 people, the 3 of us here, plus Stan Lipsey, who's a retired newspaper executive. I think Bob will speak about Stan. I'll give you a little bit more of Stan's bio when he speaks. But we've put together a very, very strong team here, and the thing that persuaded us to go forward with not only the purchase of the Berkshire paper, but also the paper here, is our confidence in and respect for the management of New England Newspaper, starting with Ed Woods right through the entire operating committee. We met several of the people several months ago, as he indicated, and we came away from that meeting heartily impressed. So the business plan that we're going to follow is pretty simple, and that is our belief is by increasing the quality of the publications, we will increase the readership following. As we do that, we will be able to increase the advertising revenues, allow these publications to remain sustainable. We're long-term capital. This is not an intent. I want to say this right. We did not buy this paper with the intent of selling it. We did not buy the Bennington Banner with the intent of selling it, and we did not buy the Berkshire Eagle with that intent. We bought these papers with the intent of operating them for the benefit of the community, because we believe in the value of journalism on all platforms. And speaking for myself, I'm a real devotee of print journalism. So it has been just an incredible opportunity I've had over the last several years, over a year and a half doing this. And I'm thrilled to be here, and I'm thrilled that I'm going to get to know a lot of you people, because I'm going to be hands-on. I will be around. I can't say I'm going to be here in Brattleboro every day because I live in Stockbridge. It's a bit of a hike. But I will be here often, and I look forward to meeting you from time to time as it goes on. Now I want to introduce you to a very, very special individual, my good friend Hans Morris, the former president of Visa Incorporated.
Thank you.
So I also am very happy to be here. As Fred said, the business plan is pretty simple. If we improve the quality, more people will read it, and more people will advertise in the publications, the print publications, the digital publications. I think one thing that we also feel is we've now had the opportunity to look at many different models of local newspapers. And it's no surprise that newspaper advertising is down dramatically over the last 10 years, as is circulation. We've seen some companies that are doing better than others, and that we think is being extremely local. That there is, and it really thrives in certain types of local communities. And but we don't, I think, intend to be. We have strategies, but our idea is to work with have management work with all of you to help determine what exactly works best. And each community is going to be different. But we intend to have higher quality print, so the print publications will be improved. We believe the digital publications will be improved. We'll be bringing jobs back to the region that have been outsourced to digital first media. And we expect to also expand the number of people we have actually doing reporting. But we also think that in the next 5 years, all this will probably be different. And so we are, as Fred said, we're patient. We expect these publications to be around for another 100 years, but we also have a sense of urgency about trying new things and making sure we're delivering things that advertisers like and that the readers like. So that's in a nutshell the plan. And I also want to point out Martin Langerfeld. Where's Martin? In the back. Martin has been essential in the entire evolution of this. Fred had met him first and introduced him to me as we started thinking about it seriously starting last summer. Martin has been very smart, knowledgeable, and I'd say just a pleasure to work with. He's a great strategist, and he knows this market very, very well, probably knows many of you well. And so he is going to be joining the board of directors of New England newspapers, and he's been an essential person as we've thought through this whole thing. So I want to say thank you, Martin. And I also would say this is a really great downtown, and Ed said we should move the headquarters back downtown. I couldn't agree with him more. So that's my other observation. I was
Yes.
Okay, so Bob Wilmers and I have known each other for 25 years, and he is a banker, but he's done other things too. He is a really smart guy, and everything I've seen him do, he's been very successful in. So I'm very proud to be his partner in this endeavor.
Thank you, Hans. I come here as an expert reader. I read 5 newspapers a day, and all of us are totally committed to the New England newspaper group and to Brattleboro, Bennington, Manchester, and Pittsfield. That said, I think I'd like to start out by telling you a little bit about Stanford Lipsey, who's also a partner of ours and who will be on the board. He comes from Omaha, Nebraska, where he owned and ran for some time Sun Newspapers, which is a small newspaper in Omaha. And there, together with Warren Buffett, he did an enormous amount of investigative reporting about a boys' orphanage called Boys Town that had been raising money on a national basis, and that they discovered after much investigation that it was pretty much a sham organization in many ways, and he won a Pulitzer Prize for that. Subsequently, Buffett bought the Buffalo News, and he asked Stan to run it, and Stan ran it until recently for 35 years, and he'll be our partner. Myself, I run a bank called M&T Bank, headquartered in Buffalo, New York, and I've been running it for 33 years. On the side, my wife and I own a small other business that makes wine.
Good one.
Chateau Aubailly, Hautbailly. I'll give you a card if you like. But the last thing I'll say is we want to have the best community newspapers in the business. We're totally committed to those 4 communities. To the extent that we can, we'll also buy locally. And with all that said, I think you've heard something about all of us and our intentions. And at this point, I'd like to open the floor open to any questions, any subject you might have.
Martin,
Yes.
do you want to join us up here as well?
Sir?
When do you actually see the changes? When will readers start seeing changes? For example, I know that the papers now have a design based on digital first media. Will the design change soon? Will they start seeing new bylines? When would readers realistically start seeing changes, and what might those be?
Yeah, so I think that you're going to see, as readers, changes happen very quickly in sort of an order that they can be accomplished. The first thing is additional bylines, absolutely. So our new ownership has sort of challenged us with inviting the community to participate on a much broader basis than ever before. So we have award-winning journalists that live and work among us. We're going to invite them to contribute on a more regular basis. That will, by sort of nature, grow the content, quantity. It becomes a factor there. So there'll be more in the newspaper every day. And that will sort of then escalate into what the next phase of that'll be. And that is, you mentioned the look and feel of the product and the fact that it is a replica of all others because it's a digital first product. When Fred and I first talked a few months ago, it was very clear to me that he didn't like the look and feel of our products. It's no secret that my bosses don't like the look and feel of the work that we do. That's not 100% true. But they're very interested in investing in a future of redesign, and that's going to involve some community interaction, right? We're going to bring in people to help us with that endeavor, and rather than build newspapers that look similar, we're going to ask the communities how it should be presented. We know that we have a staff of people that can generate the content. We have a staff of people that can produce it, and now we're at a point where we're going to get smart and ask the community to get involved with us in terms of how that content should be delivered. So you're going to see changes very quickly, I would say. Yes.
Yeah, could you explain how much you paid for the papers and what the structure of the deal is?
We've agreed with the seller. We're not going to disclose the price of the paper. But it's a 100% stock deal, and we will own 100% of the paper. Yes, ma'am.
There are already several different news outlets, 2 newspapers, and an electronic version of news, and various others. How do you intend to incorporate and work in a concordant way rather than in a competitive way?
Very good question. I think that, first of all, competition is good, right? It keeps us all on our toes, and that's a given. The daily newspaper that we know is the daily newspaper of record, and the fact that it publishes 6 days a week in print and in digital format gives us some freedom and flexibility that some of the others that you mentioned don't. So I think that from our standpoint, we're simply going to capitalize on what we can do, and that is, niche content, much more community-driven content, and that sort of thing, because we publish every day and we publish a number of pages every day. That page count will likely grow out of necessity and sort of request from the community. But we recognize the place that all of the other media outlets have in our community, and as we always have, we'd like to think that this opportunity under local ownership lets us sort of embrace them even more than we have. So we don't have the sort of the digital first do's and don'ts. We have a local ownership who says, sure, go work on that project together with your counterparts in your community, because you all serve a purpose and you can all contribute to a good bottom line. So I think local ownership enhances our ability to sort of play fair in the sandbox, if you will.
Ma'am, I'm sorry.
Olga Peters from the Commons. The town and New England newspapers, Digital First, recently entered into a deal to buy Black Mountain Road. I'm wondering if this sale is going to impact that deal at all?
As a matter of fact, not. My colleague sitting before me, standing next to me, did not buy any real estate as a part of their purchase of New England newspapers. So they want to be in the newspaper business with us. They don't want to be in the real estate business with us. So the deal that the town has to buy the Brattleboro Reformer property, it stands, and the Reformer itself will remain either in that location or another one here in Brattleboro. We haven't begun the process of looking for and confirming space, but we are not interested in owning real estate. We're interested, as it's been said for a couple of years, we're really interested in investing in the core newspaper product. Okay.
And sorry, just
We are committed, though, to being in Brattleboro.
just to clarify, there, if I'm remembering correctly, in the contract, there's a 5-year leasing option. Will that 5-year leasing option remain, or will the move downtown, is that anticipated to happen sooner?
It's something that we've just begun to look at. Those options are available to us, and under new ownership on May 2nd, we'll begin taking a look at all of our options in more detail.
More questions?
I was curious, beyond being on the board, what role do you see the 4 partners playing on a more sort of day-to-day or week-to-week level in the operation of the newspapers?
Well, Fred will be president, and he'll be in the office 8 days a week. He doesn't know it yet. And we'll be heavily involved to keeping up on an as-needed basis.
So you guys still have your day jobs, that's what you're saying?
Yes, we do.
Well, I want to emphasize one thing, which is none of us knew, well, Martin knew Ed Woods, but none of, you never met Ed before. We had the meeting with management set up by Digital First Media in January, as Ed said, and we came away from that meeting believing the management team was very strong. That's a key reason we're investing in the newspaper. And we had some ideas, but they had better ideas, and they took our ideas and reworked them, and it came back with a very good plan. And so we're not changing management. And as Fred said at the beginning, this is a strategy that we're going to grow headcount. We're not shrinking headcount. We're going to be taking jobs into the communities that had previously been outsourced out to Digital First Media, and we're doing it with the management team that we have.
How quickly are you all going to have to, because you're starting May 2nd, how quickly are you going to have to do things like the design team or things that are already, or are you going to have a sort of transition period with Digital First in terms of making that transition?
We've worked out a program with Digital First where there's some services that they will provide us with for certain periods of time. And otherwise, we're committed to having the best community newspapers in the country. And we also want to do it in an orderly, prudent manner so that we don't develop a lot of unnecessary excess expense. We'd rather do it well than do it fast.
Can I add to that, Bob? That's a good question in terms of taking those services back. I think we've all agreed that the look and feel and the customer-facing part of the work that we do is our top priority. So pagination, design, layout, those sorts of things are outsourced now, and those will be some of the first things that come back. And we have some call centers located in other parts of the country. So if you call today to talk about your Brattleboro Reformer subscription, chances are you're speaking with someone in some other place. And we're going to very quickly work to bring that local. And you know, paying your advertising bill. If you ever have to interact with us on that level, you're talking to somebody most likely in Colorado Springs. And we'd like very much for you to be speaking soon with someone who understands your business, and that person can only be local. So and there's many, many more items on our to-do list over the next several weeks and months that will take some time, but the priority will be the things that will affect you and, you know, advertisers, readers, public. Yes.
I'm sorry, just let me answer that a little bit more. Remember, today the newspaper is partly managed from Denver, Colorado, from Michigan, from I think somewhere in Massachusetts,
New York, Pennsylvania, New Haven.
and New Haven. Everything will be done locally in the future. I'm sorry, ma'am.
I was just wondering if each of your newspapers will have its own look, or will you have more of a theme?
No, Ed says it's a good question, but it's a practical matter. Each newspaper will have its own identity. We're not looking forward to having a corporate identity. Sir?
Is there a specific small town or rural daily newspaper model that you've looked to or that you strive to be, or as a business model?
I think each of us have our own ideas, but we don't have a common idea. I guess Hans has studied more local models than anybody else, so why don't you add to that, Hans?
Well, actually, I'd say Martin is the most expert, but I met personally with two other newspaper groups similar that bought back from the Enterprise. One bought their paper from the New York Times, the Sonoma Press Democrat, and the other from Digital First Media, which is the Park City Record. And so yeah, I met with both of them. Actually, the publisher of the Park City Record went to boarding school like in Brattleboro or in Bennington. He went to boarding school right around here and lived in Vermont for a while and talked a lot about. He knew the Reformer. He knew details about the Reformer that I didn't know. But we taught. So those are both examples. Martin studied other. We probably talked about 5 or 6. Yeah, but I'm going to say just one thing. They all have certain things in common, which is it's all about the community. That's what it's about. And the readers have different interests. You're not trying to recreate the New York Times or something. And we have to do stuff that the advertisers care about too. We have to really pay close attention to them. But really, if we have lots of engaged readers, you get advertisers. And so that's one thing we took away. There's a whole bunch of specific things they've done in each marketplace. But I'm going to go back to Martin here.
Yeah, I was actually talking to Fred on the way up here that, you know, historically, over the 30 years that I was involved in daily newspapers, you went out and stole a lot of ideas from a lot of people. And under local ownership, you had the ability, sort of the freedom, the flexibility to do that. You know, if we were buying a press, or if we were buying a computer, or if we were changing the way we did some piece of business, you know, we'd find some other newspaper in New England or sometimes even elsewhere, and we'd go there and we'd spend a day and we'd pick their brain. And it's nice in this business because you're not competing with even neighboring markets very much. So you're able to do that. And I think that's something we want to do going forward. I think the industry needs this really badly, you know, but there are some good business models out there that for bits and pieces of the business that are showing some success. And so, you know, as much as anything, we're going to be experimenting and picking other people's brains and bringing back great ideas here.
So as publisher, it's my ugly job to keep us on schedule. So I'm going to usher these guys out of here pretty quick because they have other stops to make, but maybe we could take just one or two more questions before we wrap.
I'm hearing a lot of emphasis on local and community, which is great, and I endorse 110%. But I'm also wondering about your strategy to incorporate national, regional, national, and especially international news. Not asking you to become the New York Times, but asking you to address how you will point us towards the news that is important internationally.
First priority has to be local, right? Because we think that we know that our local readers can only go to the Brattleboro Reformer to find out what's happened next door, down the street, perhaps in the next town, what happens in their kids' schools. And that's the first priority of a local newspaper like ours. But a reference to and a way to make us aware of things that are happening regionally and nationally, I think those are things that we should look at and consider. Under corporate ownership, there are programs that we belong to that require that we participate and run certain regional news this way and certain national news that way. So sort of along the lines of what Martin said about local ownership and flexibility, that's an opportunity for us to look at that and say, if it matters to the Brattleboro community, should we make a better reference to it on the pages of the Brattleboro Reformer? Thank you.
One of the things that's very special about this community, and similar in the Berkshires, is that you have very talented people that choose to live here because they want to live in Windham County or Berkshire County. And what we hope to do is capture some of that talent and get them to write for our paper. So I don't think that Sarah Gardner was at a meeting with us in Pittsfield. She's a professor of environmental studies at Williams, and we were talking about this exact issue. She has a lot to say about environmental things. She's international expert on this. Her opinion, that opinion can matter a lot, and I think it'd be very interesting. She could write about anything. And Jim Atlas lives in Bennington, is someone I also consulted about this. He was a reporter. He wrote for the New Yorker, for New York Times Magazine. He was National Book Award finalist. He's said, I'd love to write for you. And he's going to help recruit other writers. And we hope there's other writers that you all know who want to write. And that is something we think is special that you can't do in many other places where you don't have as much talent, frankly.
I think the way Ed's grabbing for the mic and the way he's looking at me says we've got to move on. So thank you all for your support, and we look forward to living and working with you.
Folks, over the table here, there is a press packet that you're free to take, and there's also just a copy of the press release. And Fred Rutberg's contact information is on the front cover of that. Call Fred, call me, call your local newsroom, where we want to hear from you.
If you see something in the paper you like, tell all your friends. If you see something in the paper you don't like, call me.